Convenes for the budget session, which is on the 23rd of February. The Modi government is in for what could be one of the most challenging sessions in its tenure. CNBC TV 18's Rituparna Bhuyan and Arundathi Ramanan report on the work that's pending and the hurdles that threaten to overturn the budget session.
The arrest of JNU Students' Union President Kanhaiya Kumar and the ensuing violence and chaos, and the suicide of Dalit student scholar Rohit Vemula. These are just two of many issues that have taken on political hues in the last few weeks. And the prognosis for the budget session of Parliament, which kicks off on the 23rd of February, is not good. With both the NDA and the UPA not wanting to be seen retreating from well-entrenched positions just before four states, Assam, West Bengal, Kerala and Punjab, go to polls, crucial legislation could become casualty. As of date, 11 crucial bills are yet to be taken up for debate in the Lok Sabha. These include the Bankruptcy Code, the Benami Transactions Bill, the Factories Amendment Bill, and the Land Acquisition Amendment Bill. New bills like the Finance Bill are also likely to be introduced, as will the recommendations of the Joint Panel on Land Acquisition. Meanwhile, in the Rajya Sabha, where the NDA has a poor representation, 54 legislations are pending, 14 of which were introduced by the Modi Sarkar. These include the GST Constitutional Amendment Bill, the Real Estate Bill, the Whistleblower Protection Bill, the Indian Trust Amendment Bill, and the Industries Amendment Bill. Now, there's a good reason pundits are not too sure much work will get done in this session. The past few sessions have been held to ransom as events outside Parliament became political hot potatoes, whether it was the National Herald case, or the issue of intolerance, or the Lalit Modi visa issue. In the Modi government's regime alone, Lok Sabha has lost 67 hours over 6 sessions, conducting business for 727 hours. The 2015 monsoon session of Lok Sabha was a total washout, with disruptions totaling 34 hours. This makes last year's budget session the most productive, with business being conducted for 243 hours. It's been worse in the upper house. Since the BJP came to power, Rajya Sabha has lost 258 hours to disruptions and seen 466 hours of business. Last year's monsoon session saw Rajya Sabha conduct business for only 9 hours, while 72 hours were lost to forced disruptions, the worst productive session for the House in 15 years. This means that aside from the general and railway budgets and the related appropriation and finance bills, the government may not get around to tabling any fresh legislations in the budget session. But if it does get the chance, pundits say amendments to the RBI Act, which will pave the way to create the Monetary Policy Committee, could be taken up. With Rituparna Bhuyan in New Delhi, in Mumbai, Arundathi Ramanan.
Well, joining us now to discuss what we can expect as far as the budget session is concerned, Anil Padmanabhan of the Mint and M.K. Venu. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. Venu, let me start by asking you, is the budget session dead at the very start, given what we've seen happen with the JNU controversy being the big one, but other sort of problems that the BJP is facing, not just within the party, but outside as well? Can we really expect any business outside of the budget in the budget session?
I don't expect any business to be conducted in the budget, Shireen, outside of the budget itself, which is a money bill. So they have the strength in the Lok Sabha. Because Shireen, I now have, I see a pattern before every parliament session, before at the start. There is something that happens which the government does, which unites the opposition and creates a huge polarization in politics. In the previous session, it was the raid on Kejriwal and, of course, the National Herald affair. And this time, it is what you've been seeing in the last 1 week. There is a whole debate on nationalism, which this government has kicked up. What sort of nationalism?
But are you suggesting there's some design to this pattern?
And Shireen, I want to make a point. Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, I'll state facts before you. If you remember in the monsoon, when the monsoon session began, and with all seriousness about looking at GST and various other things, on the second day itself, Ravi Shankar Prasad held a press conference accusing various state government chief ministers of corruption, Congress chief ministers. He had a press conference with documentation saying the Himachal Chief Minister, the cases against him, cases against Uttarakhand Chief Minister, also suggesting there's corruption cases against the Kerala. So the intent before a budget session is not to sort of get cooperation of the opposition.
Let's see if Anil can help out on that. Anil, what do you make of this pattern that Venu is suggesting, that ahead of every parliament session, we've actually seen the government move in a certain way that unites the opposition and derails the session itself?
Shireen, I don't buy into any conspiracy theories. Like Venu himself said, he can't explain any rationale. He's just stringing together a series of coincidences that have come up. I think there's a larger message here beyond these incidents. Is that one, there's a complete breakdown of communication between the government and opposition. And a lot of this is a manifestation of that. So, and if you step back and look, I don't think even if these incidents didn't happen, whether the Congress would have allowed GST to go through in this session or cooperated with the government, because there is kind of what strategy or whatever it is on the Congress side that they are going to block things, block development. And the tragedy is that maybe the Congress strategy, but the tragedy is that the ruling party, like he rightly points out, at 282 seats, seems to have given up even without trying. Because the build-up to this budget session, you have, one, of course, it's a vitiated environment, extremely vitiated, which only reaffirms the breakdown. But the other side is you're not seeing any build-up, you know, where normally a budget build-up, you see that it's, we are just moving to this budget as though it's a routine session. And I'm very surprised. So it seems to convey that this government is not even trying to get things off the ground, to get to speak to the opposition, to get some kind of consensus or build-up, which is to me more surprising and very confusing.
Okay, so conspiracy theories aside, and of course, I think a lot of people would agree with you, Anil, on the fact that the government seems to not be sincere in its attempt to try and reach out to the opposition to actually get business done. But Venu, let's talk about the budget session itself, and let's talk about the GST. Even today, the government coming out, the Minister of State for Finance suggesting that they're hopeful that the GST will go through in this session. In fact, we've had the appointment of the West Bengal Finance Minister, Amit Mitra. He will now head the empowered panel on the goods and services tax. But, you know, is this all sort of, you know, is the GST done and dusted as far as this session is concerned? Should we have any hope at all of any forward movement on the GST in this session, or perhaps even in the next one, post-recess?
Shireen, I don't, the kind of political climate that exists today, I've spoken to many members of the opposition parties, and they are saying that when the parliament session opens, they want to raise the issue of this whole, you know, the Rohit Vemula, what happened in Hyderabad University, and this whole issue of sedition being used to quell political dissent, and the JNU incident. And these are the issues which opposition parties are saying they would want the government to first make a statement on, even Prime Minister come in and make a statement on. And Shireen, more importantly, I have also detected, I don't know what Anil has to say, I've been speaking to a lot of BJP people. They're pushing for GST, and they see the benefits of GST in the medium to long term, but they also have this lurking fear that in the medium term, 1.5 years or 2 year period, GST could create some macroeconomic disruption in inflation and things like that. And the RSS, when you speak to them, they don't speak about GST with the same conviction as probably as Mr. Arun Jaitley.
Let me put that to Anil.
So I'm a bit confused about that also, you know.
Sure. So, Anil, you know, and we've been hearing about this for a while now, that the government itself, despite what it might say publicly, has developed cold feet as far as the GST is concerned. Again, you know, these are one of those conspiracy theories that one hears about in Delhi. But even if there is no roadmap given as far as the GST is concerned in the budget session, we are, of course, likely to see a service tax hike. Do you expect this budget to, at least in that sense, move towards the GST significantly?
See, Shireen, this argument that you know, this RSS and constituents of the BJP are not interested in the GST is an argument which has been foisted repeatedly by Congress spokespersons. Even on your channel, I remember these Congress spokespersons claiming this.
Yeah.
I've always been intrigued as to how the Congress knows what's happening inside the BJP. So I think we should leave this aside as petty politics,
Sure.
games they play.
Yeah.
You should step back and look at signals from the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. Both of them have been unambiguous about their commitment to get GST through. And that's all that matters. The rest of the pieces will fall in place. You always will have dissidents. You have Mr. Sinha, who's been objecting from the sidelines. There are a lot of these challenges that will come, but that's his job of a Prime Minister to manage. So I think we should damp down expectations on GST in the first half of this session, which, like Venu rightly points out, is heading for serious acrimony on both sides. So let us get the budget off the ground. And what worries me is that as members of Parliament, they are not going to grill this government on the budget they present. Everything will be lost in this cacophony of, heated exchanges from the Treasury and opposition benches. And this budget is hugely significant, which is why I'm repeatedly saying I'm amazed that there's no build-up to this. We are at the cusp. There's a global economic crisis which is still not, ended. China's implosion is just beginning. So, you have domestic challenges which are on all your various NPAs and infrastructure bottlenecks, raft of issues. You need to fix, the budget is we are hoping signals, in a range of these issues, but instead of that, we are spending so much time discussing, making people take litmus tests on nationalism and sedition, which is, to me, very extremely confusing.
You said that there's no buzz at this point in time, which is confusing, given the fact that this is, in that sense, the halfway mark budget for this government, and perhaps the, a slim window now for this government to be able to push through big-ticket reforms. What would your key expectations be from this budget?
Shireen, I would expect them, this budget at the least, to address these fundamental constraints that are holding back the economy, which I think one we dwelled on is the global economy. Second is this whole bad debt issue, because it has come in at a very bad time that nobody anticipated the economy to dive so rapidly globally. So that there has to be some solution on the bad debt problem. Then this rural distress, which has squeezed our agriculture demand, this has to also be addressed. So these are three fundamental signals I do hope this budget carries through, and of course a very clear blueprint on where they want to go with an economic blueprint which is coherent, logical and doable.
Anil Padmanabhan, MK Venu, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us here on India Business Hour.
So we are going to see the budget session of Parliament beginning on Tuesday. Is there going to be reforms or ruckus? Experts, there are two editors believing that we're not going to see any action on GST, at least in the first half.